मां
हरे
विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्री वेदांत स्वामिनिति नाम्नि नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So we were on second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We understood about various aspects, especially Krishna starts speaking about Sankhya Yoga, which is knowledge of the self. So Krishna in this, we see he starts sharing about the knowledge of the self, that is soul, and how this soul, Atma, is different from this Sharira, from this body. This body is made up of 5 elements. So in some previous verse, that differentiation was also there, that how this body, which is made up of matter or material elements, is destroyed, can be destroyed, and is destructible, whereas soul is indestructible. Soul is eternal, Sat, whereas material body is Asat. This body stays for some time, for some temporary period, but it will not stay for eternity. That is the nature of this soul. It is asat in nature. It is not truth. And before that, how Arjuna is surrendered to Krishna, all that we understood. So continuing this section of Bhagavad Gita, Sankhya Yoga, we'll start verse number 18. Sorry,
19.
verse number 19. Yes, verse number 19 onwards, we'll start. Verse number 19. So please join me in chanting this shloka. Ya enam veti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhayoto na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate. Yes. Anyone would like to chant this shloka? कोई श्लोक chant करना चाहेगा?
Joining Vitti Hantarang Jastainang Mannati Hatang Ubhaito no Bijani Tinayam Huntina Hannati.
Yes, wonderful. कोई और भी try करना चाहेगा? Someone else would like to try?
य एनमं वेत्ति हन्तारं यशं चैनं मन्यते हतम् उभौ तौ न विजानीतो नायं हन्ति न हन्यते.
Someone else would like to try? Okay, so we'll continue with the translation. He who thinks that the living entity is the slayer or that he is slain does not understand. One who is in knowledge knows that the self slays not nor is slain. What Krishna is telling here is, Krishna is telling the living entity. What is that living entity? Soul. Neither soul is a slayer. Means neither soul can kill someone or not soul can be killed. ना तो आत्मा मर सकती है और ना ही मार सकती है. That is what Krishna is telling here. But when an embodied living entity is hurt by fatal weapons, it is to be known that living entity within the body is not killed. The spirit soul is so small that it is impossible to kill him by any material weapon, as is evident from the previous verses. Nor is the living entity killable because of his spiritual constitution. What is killed or is supposed to be killed is the body only. This, however, does not at all encourage the killing of the body. The Vedic injunction is Mahim Syat Sarva Bhutani. Never commit violence to anyone. Nor does understanding that the living entity is not killed encourage animal slaughter. Killing the body of anyone without authority is abominable and is punishable by the law of the state as well as by the law of the Lord. Arjuna, however, is being engaged in killing for the principle of religion and not whimsically. A very interesting thing has been mentioned here, and important to understand that this living entity cannot be killed. This Atma cannot be killed because it is indestructible, it is eternal, it is Sat. And this living entity, this Atma, this soul, cannot be perceived also materially or by experimental knowledge. We cannot see this soul. How we can conceive this soul or Atma? By presence of consciousness. Symptom of soul is consciousness. By that we can understand soul is there, Atma is there. So this soul, primarily because of two reasons, this soul cannot be seen or cannot be perceived by anyone. So what are those two things by which it cannot be perceived? First thing is, soul size is very, very small. What is the size of soul? Anyone remembers? सोल का क्या, आत्मा का क्या साइज है? Yes. Hare Krishna.
1,000 part of the hair.
Yes. 10,000 part of the hair is the size of the soul. So this soul cannot be seen by any material instrument. That is one reason, because it is very minute in size. Second reason is, this soul is spiritual in nature, whereas we are tend, we can only see matter, which is made up of 5 elements, Panchabhuta, that we can see through this eyes. We can see only gross body. Just like this eyes can only see in visible range, cannot see in infrared, microwave, X-rays, cannot see. We cannot see. Same way, the soul is spiritual in nature. That soul cannot be seen. And that soul cannot be destroyed by any sort of weapon also. No weapon can destroy. Now, here further it is mentioned that just because this soul cannot be killed, no one is supposed to encourage the killing of the body. The soul cannot be killed, right? So what is the thing which get destroyed or which can be killed is body. Now, just because soul or that living entity cannot be killed, it doesn't mean we should encourage killing. Just like the terrorists, what they do, their this thing is to encourage killing, do more and more killing. And even further we'll see Bhagavad Gita. Krishna also says, because all living entities belongs to Krishna, is part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is saying that all the living entity is not encouraged to kill. The living entity is not encouraged. Even animal slaughtering is not at all encouraged. Why? Because Krishna, that animal has a one Atma. Soul is there in that animal body. And that Atma is a part and parcel of Krishna. Just like, suppose a father or a mother or a parent is there, one child kills another child. So that parent or a mother or father will not be happy. Same way, Krishna, he feels very sad when this animal slaughtering is happening. Even to that extent, because all those animals, all those souls, living entities belongs to Krishna. And when such animal slaughtering happens, just like suppose a person murders another person, he kills another person. So as per the law, different courts, they will give certain punishment. There is authority which will give the punishment. They will hang him, they will give the punishment. Same way, when these living entities, when the animals are slaughtered, nature, which is working under the direction of Krishna, gives the punishment. How that nature gives the punishment? Through various ways. Adi Devik kleshas. What are those kleshas? Just like we are experiencing extreme heat in Delhi, in India. That is one of the way. Just like we roast the animal, to eat that animal, we get that karma. How? By such extreme weather conditions. Sometimes we come across earthquake, tsunami, cyclones. Right? Now there is a lot of heat. All those are the consequences of animal slaughtering. So one may ask, see, Arjuna, he is also engaged in killing. So he is engaged in killing for what purpose? He is engaged in killing for protection of dharma under the authority of Krishna, who is a supreme authority. Under that authority, Arjuna is engaged in killing in war, not himself whimsically. Just like suppose a person is there, he goes and kills another person. So what will happen? He will be given certain punishment. But there is one more person. He also goes and kills another person. But that person is a terrorist or some criminal. So what will happen? He will not be punished. He will be awarded. Same way, Arjuna is fighting here for what purpose? Under the authority of Krishna, who is a supreme authority, he is fighting to protect a religion. Just like a person, he goes and kills some terrorist under the authority of law or our different judiciary. He is safeguarding, he is protecting our nation. For that purpose, he is killing. Same way, Arjuna is engaged in killing, protect dharma under the order of Krishna. We'll read the next verse. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita na vana bhuyaha ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Translation: for the soul there is never birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Body is slain, but soul is not at all slain. Soul cannot be destroyed. So here Krishna is telling the soul, for the soul there is no birth never birth nor death. Soul does not take birth, soul does not die. So which feature of the soul Krishna is explaining is soul is Sat, is eternal. There is no birth for it. It's ever existing. Right? Soul is unborn. It is not just like at certain point of time, this building is creating. This building is created at certain point of time. My body is created at certain point of time. It has a birth. This system is created for a certain point of time. But for soul, there is no such thing. It is eternally, it is existing. Ajo, unborn, eternal, nitya, ever existing, and undying and dreamable. From time immemorial, it is existing. There is no such point when soul is created or has taken birth. We'll read the purport. Qualitatively, the small atomic fragmental part of the Supreme Spirit is one with the Supreme. He undergoes no changes like the body. Sometimes the soul is called the steady or kuthastha. The body is subject to 6 kinds of transformations. It takes its birth in the womb of a mother's body, remains for some time, grows, produces some effect, gradually dwindles, and at last vanishes into oblivion. The soul, however, does not go through such changes. The soul is not born, but because he takes on a material body, the body takes its birth. The soul does not take birth there, and the soul does not die. Anything which has birth also has death, and because the soul has no birth, he therefore has no past, present, or future. He is eternal, ever existing, and primeval. That is, there is no trace in history of his coming into being. Under the impression of the body, we seek the history of birth, etc. of the soul. The soul does not at any time become old as the body does. The so-called old man therefore feels himself to be in the same spirit as he is in childhood or youth. Just like, and one more difference here we can understand for the soul and the body is, body go through certain transformation. And what are those transformation? There are 6 kinds of transformation. Shadvikaras. And what are those 6 transformation? First, body takes the birth. There is a birth for the body. So and so date I was born. And once I was born, I grow. I grow to boyhood, boyhood to youth, youth to old age to death. Like that I keep growing. Right? After growing certain time, there is a byproducts. This body produces some byproducts, and after that byproducts has been produced, this body gradually starts dwindling. It gradually starts becoming old, and after certain time, this body vanishes. Vanishes means at that time, soul leaves the body. It dies. It dies. So this soul takes up this body. This body has birth and death, whereas the soul has no birth and death. Right? So here one more nice point is mentioned. The change of the body do not affect the soul. These all changes are happening in the bodies. These all transformation, whatever is happening in the body, does not affect the soul. It is not like soul is also becoming old. I am becoming old, soul is also now becoming old. No, it does not happen in that way. Soul always remain eternal, and always it is in its youthful state. And soul does not deteriorate like a tree or anything material. It does not deteriorate also. It does not destroy also. And soul has no byproduct also. Whatever byproduct we have, like children and all, it is a bodily byproduct. It is generated from the body, not from the soul. So neither soul grows, nor souls destroy, nor it has a byproducts. Soul does not even divide, like, oh, I have to produce one child, let me divide. No, it does not happen in that way. Right? So soul is individual. In Katha Upanishad, also we find similar passage. Same Bhagavad Gita, this verse we can read in Katha Upanishad also. Na jayate mariyate vipaschin, nayam kutaschin va na vibhuva kaschit. Ajo nitya sashvato yam purano na handite hanye mane sharinde. So here one word is different. What important word is vipaschin. And what does that mean? Vipaschin means which is learned or with knowledge. So this soul is full of knowledge. This soul is full of knowledge, but due to contamination of or due to covering of this material world, material nature, we cannot perceive that knowledge. Just like a mirror is covered with the dust, we cannot see our face in that mirror because it is covered with dust. We have to clean it. Same way, this soul has been covered by the material covering. So by cleaning that material covering, we can perceive our own self. And how to clean that? By chanting Hare Krishna mantra. One can clean himself from the material covering. And those material covering is the only barrier for us to attain the perfection in our life. That is the only barrier. We'll read further. The soul is full of knowledge or always with consciousness. Therefore, consciousness is the symptom of the soul. Even if one does not find the soul within the heart where he is situated, one can still understand the presence of the soul simply by presence of the consciousness. Sometimes we do not find the sun in the sky owing to the clouds or for some other reasons, but the light of the sun is always there, and we are convinced that it is therefore daytime. As soon as there is a little light in the sky early in the morning, we can understand that the sun is in the sky. Similarly, since there is some consciousness in all bodies, whether man or animal, we can understand the presence of the soul. This consciousness of soul is, however, different from the consciousness of the Supreme, because the Supreme Consciousness is all knowledge, past, present, and future. The consciousness of the individual soul is prone to be forgetful. When he is forgetful of his real nature, he obtains education and enlightenment from the superior lessons of Krishna. But Krishna is not like the forgetful soul. If so, Krishna's teaching of Bhagavad Gita would be useless. So, this soul has consciousness. That is the symptom of soul. But due to covering, just like a sky is covered by the clouds, same way the soul is covered by the material nature. And because of that contamination, because of that covering, soul is in ajnana state. In the state of ignorance. So how that soul can come in the state of jnana or knowledge? By approaching a bona fide spiritual master, or as mentioned, Krishna's representative of Krishna, who is the supreme authority who is the supreme conscious. He is situated in everyone's heart as a Paramatma. When we take lessons, when we understand from Krishna this message, so what happened? Those covering or those agyana, that agyana starts shattering. That agyana starts shattering. So when that agyana comes free from the agyana, what happens? He attains his real position. He attains his real position. He gets the knowledge of the self, who he is. And when he gets the knowledge of the self, it is easy for him to remain peaceful, to remain happy in this existence. Further we'll read, there are two kinds of souls, namely the minute particle soul, Anu Atma, and the super soul, Vibhu Atma. This is also confirmed in Katha Upanishad. What it is? Anyor Anyayam Mahato Mahina Yan Atmasya Jantor Nihito Bhuyayam Tam Akaratuhu Pashyati Vita Shoko Dhatu Prasadan Mahima Nam Atmanaha. Both the super soul means Paramatma, and the atomic soul, Jivatma, are situated on the same tree of the body within the same heart of the living entity. And only one who has become free from all material desires as well as lamentation can, by the grace of the Supreme, understand the glories of the soul. Krishna is the fountainhead of the super soul also, as it will be disclosed in the following chapter, and Arjuna is the atomic soul, forgetfulness of his real nature. Therefore, he requires to be enlightened by Krishna or by a bona fide representative. So, this Atma, Jivatma, is minute in particle, and Paramatma, who is Krishna, is Vibhu Atma, is a complete super soul. So what is the difference? We can understand how they are different. Just like, and fire is there. From that fire, one spark is separated, and that spark falls on the grass or wet grass or certain platform. So what happens? That sparks, after some time, it will extinguish. Will get extinguished. The same way, this Jivatma, this soul, is a part and parcel of that entire Krishna. Just like that spark is a part and parcel of the fire, same way, this Jivatma is the part and parcel of Krishna. And Paramatma is nothing but Krishna himself. Right? Further we'll read text number 21. Veda vinashinam nityam yaenam yajam avyayam katham sa purusha partha kam gatayanti hantikam. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, unborn, eternal, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? So, now here Krishna is telling this soul is indestructible, is unborn, eternal, immutable. It will not change in that way. So how this soul can kill anyone? Cannot kill. But it cannot cause anyone to kill. Soul will remain eternal. Right? Just like a king, to protect the law and order, to be, neutral or to give fair justice to everyone, he is not at all considered about his family. Suppose his family member is engaged in some kind of criminal activity. So it is his duty, even to that family member, he should punish. He should give justice. He should not discriminate. Same way, Krishna is asking Arjuna to protect this dharma. Your own family members, even though they are engaged in abominable activity, as a Kshatriya, because Shati Trayate iti Kshatriya, the one who protects from Shati, from harm or danger, that is known as Kshatriya. So it is your duty to kill them. Krishna is asking Arjuna, read the purport. Everything has its proper utility, and a man who is situated in complete knowledge knows how and where to apply the things for its proper utility. Similarly, violence also has its utility, and how to apply violence rests with the person in knowledge. Although the justice of peace awards capital punishment to a person condemned for murder, the justice of peace cannot be blamed because he orders violence to another person according to the codes of justice. In Manu Samhita, the law book for mankind, it is supported that a murderer should be condemned to death so that in his next life he will not have to suffer for the great sin he has committed. Therefore, the king's punishment of hanging a murderer is actually beneficial. Similarly, when Krishna orders fighting, it must be concluded that the violence is for supreme justice, and as such, Arjuna should follow the instruction, knowing well that such violence and committed in the act of fighting for Krishna is not violence at all, because at any rate the man or rather the soul cannot be killed. So for the administration of justice, so-called violence is permitted. A surgical operation is not meant to kill the patient but to cure him. Therefore, the fighting to be executed by Arjuna at the instruction of Krishna is with full knowledge, so there is no possibility of sinful reaction. So here very nice example Prabhupada has given. Just like surgical operation is performed on a patient, that surgical operation is performed to cure that patient from the certain disease. Same way, Krishna is telling that this killing is for protection of dharma, not meant to, just like that surgical operation is not meant to kill that person. It is meant to protect that person from that particular disease. Same way, this killing, this war is not at all meant for killing but to protect dharma, not unnecessary committing sinful activity. This war is not meant for committing sinful activity, it is meant to protect dharma. Just like to protect law and order, there is a certain judiciary, there is a certain justice, code of justice is there, so that people or public, they are protected, right? A person is there, police person is there, suppose he kills anyone because he has committed a crime, he kills someone, so that killing is meant for protection of the citizens. Or an army person, he kills someone, that killing is meant for protection of the citizens. Whereas that same army person comes to his home and kills his neighbor, so what will happen? Immediately he will be taken into the custody and he will be punished, because the intention of killing is different. Same way Prabhupada is telling here, everything has its proper utility. Just like a knife can be used to kill somebody, to stab somebody, and it can be used to chop the vegetables. So it has a utility. And how we utilize that knife, it depends upon what knowledge do we have. What knowledge do we have? Just like a person, a small child, he takes birth in a family of, suppose, terrorists. So what kind of knowledge he will get? He will get a knowledge to kill the person, right? He will get a knowledge to kill the person. He will utilize all those weapons to kill the persons, knife to kill the person. Whereas a person who is born in a sober, good family, he will utilize the same knife to cut the vegetables. So it depends what kind of knowledge do we have. And when we have such knowledge, accordingly we'll act on that knowledge. Accordingly we'll act on that knowledge. We'll move to next verse. Vashamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grahanti granati naro parani तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि संयति नवानि देहि. As a person puts on new garments, giving up the old ones, similarly the soul accepts new material bodies, giving up the old one and useless one. So here Krishna has used the analogy. What analogy he is using? Just like we change the border, this clothes, garments every day, we wash, and suppose when this cloth is not at all suitable to wear, it is torn and it has become very dirty, fade away. What happens? We discard that cloth. Same way Krishna is telling, the soul also accepts the new body, giving up the old one or useless one. Just like we change the garments, we change the clothes. Same way, soul also changes the material body. So it is very natural process, Krishna is telling. So don't worry about that. He is telling to Arjuna, don't worry about that. Still you should fight. Because anyway they have to change the body. So very interesting purport it is, and lot of things here to learn from this purport. We'll read this purport. Change of the body by the atomic individual soul is accepted fact. Even some of the modern scientists who do not believe in the existence of soul, but at the same time cannot explain the source of energy from the heart, have to accept continuous change of the body, which appear from the childhood to boyhood, and from boyhood to youth, and again from youth to old age. From old age, there is a change in the change is transferred to another body. This has already been explained in the previous verses. Now here, transference of the atomic individual soul to another body is made possible by the grace of the soul. Very important thing to learn here, how this Atma leaves the body to another body, how it happens. It happens, or it is possible, by the presence or by the grace of super soul, by the presence of or by the mercy of Paramatma only. Until and unless Paramatma doesn't leave this body, soul cannot leave this body. As soon as Paramatma leaves the body, immediately soul, this Atma, also leaves the body. This living entity, we also leaves the body. And why super souls leave the body? That is further explained here. The super soul fulfills the desire of the atomic soul as one's friend fulfills the desire of another. The Vedas like the Mundaka Upanishad as well as the Shvetashvara Upanishad compare the soul and super soul to two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. One of the bird, the individual atomic soul, is eating the fruit of the tree, and other bird, Krishna, is simply watching his friend. Of these two birds, although they are same in quality, one is captivated by the fruits of the material tree, while the other is simply witnessing the activity of his friend. So this body is compared to tree in various Upanishads, and in this body, two birds, just like in that tree, two birds are sitting. This body is having two Atmas. One is Paramatma, another is Atma. And that Jivatma is enjoying the fruits of the material nature. Just like that bird is enjoying the fruits of the tree, another bird is witnessing, is just simply seeing. Same way, this bird, this Jivatma, is eating the fruit of material nature, which is full of happiness and distress. Just like fruits are also, sour in taste, sweet in taste, right? Sometimes it is raw, it is sour in taste. Same way, this Jivatma is trying to enjoy the fruit of the material nature. What is that fruit? That fruit drives the happiness and distress. And another bird which is Paramatma, is simply witnessing the activities of Jivatma. Why? Because Krishna is the topmost, he is the topmost well-wisher of all the living entities. We'll read further. Krishna is the witnessing bird and Arjuna is the eating bird. Although they are the friends, one is still the master and other is the servant. Forgetfulness of this relationship by the atomic soul is the cause of one's changing his position from one tree to another or from one body to another. Here one more very important thing is revealed. Now, why we change our body? Because we want to enjoy more and more fruit. Just like bird wants to taste more and more fruits. Same way this soul, Atma, also wants to enjoy the fruits of this material nature. And that Atma is forgetfulness of that relationship with Paramatma. That is also cause of, because he has forget the relationship with that Paramatma. So what happens? Automatically he will desire, oh, I want to enjoy this material nature. Whereas Paramatma, Krishna is telling, you just simply surrender to me. I will take care of you. I will provide whatever you need. Just like a father. Suppose a child, he accepts the father and he is completely surrendered to his father. What happens? Father take care of the child needs. All the needs of the child is taken care by father. Child does not need to struggle separately. Same way Krishna is telling. The Jiva soul is struggling very hard on the tree of material body, but as soon as he agrees to accept the other bird as the supreme master, as Arjuna agreed to do so by voluntary surrender onto Krishna for the instruction, the subordinate bird immediately becomes free from all lamentation. So as soon as this Atma accepts Paramatma, or this one bird accepts another bird as a supreme, as a master, or just like Arjuna has agreed to accept Krishna as the master, immediately all kind of lamentations is destroyed. All kind of grief is destroyed. How? Because when we accept the supremacy of Krishna or Paramatma, what happens? This Paramatma or Krishna, he arranges in such a way that we get enlightened. He brings us in the association of devotee, sadhu sangha. He brings us a pure devotee. He brings us a spiritual master who enlighten us from the knowledge. When that happens, we becomes free from all kind of lamentation. And same thing is mentioned in Katha Upanishad and Shweta Suftara Upanishad. Samane vraksha purusho nimagno nishaya sochati muhya manaha Jushtam yada pashyati anyam aishyam asya mahimanam iti viti shokaha. Although the two birds are in the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with the anxiety and moroseness as the enjoyer of the fruit of the tree. But if in some way or other he turns his face to his friend, who is the Lord, and knows his glories, at once the suffering bird becomes free from all anxiety. See, at once, when we try to understand the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna, just like now we are trying to understand Krishna's message, we are trying to understand about Krishna. So what happens? Gradually, we starts becoming free from all kind of anxiety, sochati and akanshati, lamentation, anxiety, all kind of distresses, suffering, all things will be become free from all these things. So for that, what is required? It is required to accept the supremacy of the Lord. It is required to accept Krishna, understand his glories, how he is ready. We'll read further, then we'll understand more in detail. Yes, Arjuna has now turned his face towards his eternal friend Krishna and is understanding the Bhagavad Gita from him. And thus, hearing from Krishna, he can understand the supreme glories of the Lord and be free from lamentation. Arjuna is advised herewith by the Lord not to lament for the bodily changes of his old grandfather and his teacher. He should rather be happy to kill their bodies in the righteous fight so that they may be cleansed at once of all reaction from their various bodily activity. One who slays down his life on the sacrificial altar or in the proper battlefield is at once cleansed of the bodily reaction and promoted to higher status of life. So there is no cause of lamentation for Arjuna's. So just like a murderer, he is hanged or he is given certain punishment. For what purpose he is given punishment? So that he should not suffer in his next life. Same way, Krishna is telling, you should also punish your grandfather, your teacher, so that they will not further suffer from the reaction of sinful activities. That is what Krishna is telling here. So Krishna, he is Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. He is Suhridam means he is the well-wisher. He is the friend of all the living entities. Sarva Bhutanam means all the living entities. There are different types of friends. Scriptures explains in Sanskrit we can understand they are just like in English. Friend means there is only one types of friend. Friend means friend, okay. But in Sanskrit there are three ways to refer friend. One is mitra, another is bandhu, and one more is there. There are so many. One more is suhrida, Suhrit means one who thinks of my well-wishing. So there are three types of friend primarily. This mitra is the friend who is on social platform. He is friend just for the my social sake. Oh, we are friends, sir. Okay, we are just friends in social this connection. Like in certain community, we are just friends, right? But there is a bandhu, and that bandhu is a friend. For what purpose? That bandhu is also a friend just for namesake. He is a friend just for namesake. He is no real friend. Just for namesake, he is a friend. But the person who is Suhrit means he is the friend who is actually desiring my happiness, who wants me to be happy, who wants to see me as a happy. There, in your friend circle, you will see some of your only few of your friends who really want you to be happy. Just like we can experience in different relations also this thing. Like mother, father, our brother, sister, they are the one who really wants us to be happy. Same way, there are certain friends who want us to be happy. Suhit. Those are known as Suhit. That is what Krishna is telling. I am the Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. I am the well-wisher of all the living entities. He is not telling Manushyanam. He is telling Sarvabhutanam, all the living entities. Krishna is telling. And for that purpose, Krishna is telling that you simply surrender to me, just like father asked his son or his child. You simply surrender to me, depend on me. I will take care of all your needs. You don't worry. Same way, Krishna, he being the well-wisher of us, he is telling you simply surrender on to me. How to surrender? By thinking of Krishna. Ananyascintayanto mam ye jana paripasate tesham nityabhyuttanam yogakshema mamam. When we always think of Krishna by chanting his holy names, so what happens? Krishna is telling, I am ready to provide whatever you lack. Whatever you need, I am ready to provide. And whatever you have, I will protect. Such is the friendship that Krishna offers. And he is not accepting anything in return. Just you depend upon me. Just you think of me. Just develop that friendship with me. That is what Krishna is telling the entire Bhagavad Gita. That is what Krishna is telling. For what purpose? For our benefit. Krishna is telling like that. But now what happens? We have a lot of material desires, and because of that material desires, Krishna gives us different types of body. He help us to change different bodies, take birth in different bodies. Okay, you want to be like this? Okay, don't worry, I will take care of this. I will provide you the body. Such kind of body. Just like a bird, that bird wants to enjoy the fruit of the trees, different fruits. Sometimes he is getting sour fruit, sometimes sweet fruit. Same way we also develop desire. But because of those desires, what happens? Certain times we get distress. Suppose I want to crack so and so exam. So I have that desire, I am preparing hard, but what happens? I will not clear that exam. I don't get rank in that exam, merit in that exam. What happens? It will give me distress. Whereas if I get a good rank, it will be a source of happiness for me. Same exam. Same way, what happens when we make such and so material desires? Krishna, he is a well-wisher of us, friend of us. Okay, you want, reluctantly he sanction all those desires. And Krishna, how he acts? This another bird who is a friend of this bird who is enjoying the fruit, how that birds act or Paramatma act? He act as a Upadrishta Anumanta. Upadrishta means he is just seeing, Upadrishta, overseeing that activity of another bird. Upadrishta. Anumanta, okay, he sanctions. Anumanta, okay, sanction. These are the two jobs that Krishna do as a Paramatma. He is just simply watching and he is sanctioning. But as soon as this bird turns to another bird, or this Atma turns towards Paramatma, Krishna immediately take care, taking charge of that Atma. He takes charge of another Atma. We'll read the next verse. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dadati pavaka, na chainam kledanti apo, na sosyanti marutaha. The soul can never be cut into the pieces by any weapon, nor can be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. So, soul, here Krishna is clarifying more in detail. Soul cannot be cut by any weapon into the pieces. And it cannot be burned also. It cannot be wet, cannot be moistened, गीला नहीं कर सकते, not withered by the wind. So here Prabhupada explains the purport. There are different kinds of weapons. Now in modern science, there are certain weapons. We have only certain kind of weapons, which produces fire or blast, such kinds of weapons. But in the ancient times, in the Vedic time, there are different kinds of weapon, and to encounter those certain weapons, there is another kind of weapon. Just like to encounter the weapon of fire, there is a water. To encounter the weapon of air, tornado, there is another kind of weapon is there. To encounter the weapon of earth, there is another kind of weapon is available. To encounter the weapon of water, there is another kind of weapon is there. All different kinds of weapon were there to encounter another weapon. But still, that soul can never be cut into pieces or can never be annihilated. That soul is uncleavable, cannot be further divided. That is the property of the soul. One may think, oh, soul can be divided in pieces. It is not at all possible. Here, that very nice example is there. Analogy is given. Because they are atomic souls, Sanatana, eternally, they are prone to be covered by illusory energy. And thus they become separated from the association of Supreme Lord, just as the spark of fire, although one in quality with the fire, are prone to be extinguished when out of the fire. Just like a spark can be extinguished when it comes out of the fire. That spark gets extinguished. Same way, this atomic soul, individual soul, Atma, Jivatma, becomes subject to get influenced by the material energy, material nature. But when one get enlightened by the knowledge, he again unite with Krishna. By that knowledge, one becomes liberated, free from this material contamination. We read the next verse. Achedyoyam adhayoyam kledyo shoshaivacha nitya sarvagata shantanu achaloyam sanatana. The individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burned or nor dried. He is everlasting, all-pervading and unchangeable, immovable and eternally the same. Further properties of souls are there. This soul is unbreakable, insoluble, cannot be dissolved in certain water or something, some solution. It is everlasting, eternal, all-pervading, sarvagataha. Very important point here Prabhupada mentioned is sarvagata means it is present all over the existence. This soul is present all over the existence. It is not like living entities are there only on the earthly planet. It is there on different planetaries also. It is there on the sun also. But how? It is very difficult to conceive. But how we can understand? Just like this body is made of Panchbhutas, 5 elements: earth, fire, air, ether, water. So in the sun planet, they are the living entities who have primarily their bodies consist of fire. Just like in earth, this earthly planet Prithvi, our body is primarily made of earth and water. These are the primary elements of this body. Same way on the sun planet, the primary element of the body is fire. And because of that living entity, because this Atma cannot be burnt, so this living entity is there on the sun planet also, because primarily that body is made of fire. So body is made of fire, cannot be burnt further, and Atma is also cannot be burnt. So sun is also having, another planets are also having the living entities. All over the universe, the living entities are present. Living entities are present. Further we'll read. Avyaktoyam achintoyam avikaryoyam uchyate tasmadevam viditvenam nanu sochitum harasi. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, immutable, and unchangeable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. Krishna is telling soul is invisible, cannot be seen. One cannot see the soul by our naked eyes. We cannot see. It is unconceivable, achintya. One cannot understand about the soul so easily. It is immutable. It will not change, mute. Just like a corona, this virus, there it is mutable. It is changing. Different versions of coronavirus is there. But this soul does not have such versions. It is not like it is having changed into another form. No, it will not change. And it is unchangeable. So that is the property of soul. Read the purport. As described previously, the magnitude of soul is so small for our material calculation that it cannot be seen even by the most powerful microscope. Therefore, he is invisible. As far as soul's existence is concerned, no one can establish his existence experimentally beyond the proof of Shruti or Vedic wisdom. Now, this soul, what is the proof that soul is existing? One cannot understand the presence of the soul experimentally. Through certain experiment, let me try to understand soul experiment. No, it cannot happen. Why? Because it cannot be conceived by the material senses. It's so small in size and it is spiritual in nature. This body is made of matter. Under the influence of time, kala, it can be conceived because our body is made of matter. But we cannot conceive this soul, which is spiritual in nature. It cannot be conceived because our senses are imperfect. We have imperfect senses. It cannot be understood. So how one can understand soul, about the soul? By Shruti, by the Vedic wisdom, by the Vedas. Because Vedas primarily talk about the soul. So Vedas are the authority. And here Krishna is telling about the soul, who is the supreme authority. Vedascha sarver aham eva vedyo vedanta krit vedavid evam chaham. Krishna is telling, from me Vedas has come. I am the source of Vedas. And from the Vedas, I am to be known. Krishna is telling. So Krishna is the supreme authority. That supreme authority is talking about the soul. So by that we can understand. Just like, suppose you purchase a vehicle for yourself, a car, nice car you have purchased. Now you are driving as you like. You drive that vehicle in whatever way you like. So what will happen? The traffic police will find some penalty upon you because of you have broken some law or certain rules and regulation. You have violated certain rules and regulation of traffic. The traffic police will fine you with a certain penalty. You cannot say, "Oh, I was not aware. Please forgive me." No, that cannot be a excuse. Same way, we have got this human life. It is our duty to understand, to get this knowledge by approaching a authority like Krishna, by reading the message of Krishna, this Bhagavad Gita. When we get that message and when we approach such authority, we can understand about ourselves. And when we understand about ourselves, we can act in right way, in proper way. Just like somebody who wants to drive a vehicle or a car, he goes to a driving school. So first of all, that school or that driving institution, what that does is it talks about the rules and regulation of the road, traffic, how to drive, what all traffics, what all signals, and what all signboards, what does it mean. All that they explain, 2-3 days they pass in just explaining all these things. Then they, okay, now we'll teach you the driving. Same way, we have got this human body. It is our duty to approach a bona fide authority, Krishna, or his representative, to understand this knowledge about the self, who we are, and act on that knowledge. Act on that knowledge. We cannot do experimentally, it is not possible, it is inconceivable. This knowledge cannot be revealed through certain experiments. Not possible. By approaching a bona fide authority, this knowledge, in the same way, we can get the knowledge of the soul self. And when we get this knowledge, what happens? We get enlightened. Through enlightenment, we get liberated. So, anyone has any question or anything to ask or share? Yes.
Prabhuji, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji,
Yes,
I have
yes.
a question.
Hmm.
I have a question which I put it in chat. तो वहां से आप देख लीजिए एक बार.
Just once. Can slaughterhouse be justified for providing food to the society consuming it? Is it society responsible, accountable? See, if we see practically also, just forget about that side. If we see practically, first of all, this slaughterhouse, for example, we take example of hen. This hen also needs a food, or cow also need a food, and to provide them food, it is very important to grow certain kind of grass, certain kind of crop is required. So first we feed them, and now if you see, whatever, suppose from hen you get an egg, whatever egg we get, is it safe to eat? That in the internet you can see lot of such things are available to see also, that that egg is not at all fit to eat also, because that egg is produced by the injections. So much chemical antibiotics are given to that hen that it produces just simply waste. It is not even produces proper egg. It is just simply producing waste. And by eating that egg, what happens? Your body becomes unfit to even respond to bacteria. Your body is not because so much antibiotics are given to hen. Through hen, we get that antibiotics through egg, and when we consume that egg, what happens? That makes our body even will not be able to respond antibiotics, nor even we can develop immunity to fight the bacteria. If you see a lot of disease or epidemics, whatever has been, happened in the past, has happened because of this animals eating, slaughtering of the animals. So, in a practical way, in a spiritual way, in whatever way you try to understand this animals, biological way also, economical way, biological way, in whatever way we try to understand this animal slaughtering or animal eating is not at all win-win situation. It is lose-lose situation only. It is not going to help us. So that is the thing we should try to avoid, and that is one of the principle of dharma.
Prabhuji,
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Another point which came in the today's session was the atomic soul versus the super soul. Now, atomic soul is enjoying the fruits of the tree, or the world, or the materialistic aspect, and the super soul is witnessing it. Right now, the super soul never interface or comes into the independence of the atomic soul.
Correct.
So, in that sense, is the super soul allowing a person to commit a sin, or the atomic soul suffers the sinful activity through a reaction?
Very good question. So what happens? This super soul, first two things it is doing. One is Upadrashta and second is Anumanta. Upadrashta means it is just seeing the activity of the atomic soul, overseeing the activity of, oh, it is doing this thing, okay, doing this thing. Second thing is that atomic soul want to do something, just like I want to commit certain crime. I want to go and rob somebody or commit thief. I want to become a thief. So what happens? Once or twice I will get a inner voice. I should not do such a crime. I should not do such a crime. But no, I want to rob, or I want to do bulgari in somebody's house. So what happens? Over a period of time, that inner voice also will get loose. So what happens? Krishna, he guides. He tries to guide some living entity. Oh, don't act in that way. It is not going to help you. It is harmful for you. But our desire is so strong, we don't listen that Paramatma. So Paramatma reluctantly it sanction our desire, because we think it is going to give me happiness. So Paramatma, okay, you think it's going to give you happiness, okay, you take it. Just like a child. Suppose a child, he wants to put his finger in the fan. So what father will do? Father will tell, don't do. But child, no, I want to put. Father will say, okay, you put. So what happens? That child get hurted. Even the father, he don't want his child to put the finger, but child is not listening. So what father can do? Father will allow. Same way, Paramatma sanctions. Reluctantly, he sanctions our desires. Reluctantly, he sanctions our desire. Even though that is harmful for us. So that is the thing. Hope it helps you to understand.
Hare Krishna. Yes, sir. Yes.
Any other question? Okay, so we'll end here. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki
Jai.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.